Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our final lesson in the unit on waves. This is also the final lesson of new material for our entire class. So after this, we will simply be doing review, trying to recover some of the material that we learned about earlier in this semester. Today we are talking about the concept of color. Specifically, how do you see color? And we're going to be looking at some optical illusions and some fun little activities that you can participate in just by watching the screen. All right, let's start with how do you see color? Well, you're at the back of your eye, you have a special layer of cells called a retina. You have one in each eye. And retinas are made up of two different types of cells that are called rods and cones. Now, the rods are basically just responsible for distinguishing between light and dark. If you can look at something and tell that it's light red versus dark red, the rods aren't really responsible for telling you that it's red, but they are responsible for telling you what shade of red it is. The rods actually work better in low light conditions. That's why if you wake up in the middle of the night and you want to go to the bathroom or go get a drink of water, you don't necessarily have to turn on the lights to see where you're going because your rods can pick up small amounts of light even in a dark room and allow you to see your way around. The other type of cells in your retina are called cones, and these are the cells that give you color vision. Unlike rods, cones work best in bright light. If you've ever noticed that when you do wake up in the middle of the night, you can't really tell what color anything is. If you don't believe me, wait until after you go to bed tonight, turn out all the lights, and wait a few minutes for your eyes to get dark adjusted, and then look around. You'll be able to see the shapes of things in your room, the chair, the desk, the closet, whatever, but you won't be able to tell what color anything is because your cones need bright light in order to determine color. Now, humans have three types of cones, which we call red, green, and blue. And they're called this because these are the colors of light that they're most sensitive to. So when you see something that's red, the red cones in your eyes are taking that information, that light, and they're sending a message to your brain saying, hey, I'm seeing red light. Meanwhile, the green and the blue cones are basically doing nothing. They're just resting. Okay, well, that's all well and good, but what happens when you see something that isn't red, green, or blue? What happens when you see something that is, say, yellow? Well, it just so happens that yellow causes both your red and green cones to become excited, but not the blue cones. So when you see something that is yellow, your red and green cones are both sending a message to your brain saying, I'm seeing red, I'm seeing green, I'm seeing red, I'm seeing green, and your brain interprets that as, I'm seeing yellow. So the processing of colors actually happens in your brain. Your eyes pick up the wavelengths of light, but your brain determines what to make of them. The neat thing is, it doesn't matter whether you look at something that's actually yellow or whether you look at something that's beaming out red and green light at the same time. Your brain will still see yellow. When you look at your TV or your phone screen, your TV screen can't actually make yellow. All it can make is red, green, and blue. When it wants you to see something that's yellow, like say a picture of a banana or a lemon, then if you get really, really close to the TV screen, you can see that where they're showing you the lemon, there's actually red and green lights shining at the same time. And when you're far enough away, the red and the green lights just merges together in your brain and creates yellow. So we're going to do a little bit of an activity with color memory. I want you to take a moment to study this stop sign, and all I really need you to do is to remember what color this stop sign is. Later, I'm going to show you a picture of, or several pictures of the same stop sign with the colors adjusted, and I'm going to ask you to pick out the picture that has the same shade as this stop sign. If you need to pause the video to take a moment to look at it closely, feel free. Come back to this later. Now, one thing about cone cells is that, like any other part of your body, they can become tired if they're exercised or excited for too long. On this next screen, I'm going to show you a pure red screen. And as you look at it, it will excite the red cones in your eyes, but not the greens or the blues. I'm going to let you stare at that screen for about 30 seconds, and then I'm going to switch to a pure white screen. Let's see what happens. All right, I need you to stare at this dot right here in the middle. Now, when I say stare, it's okay for you to blink. You can blink your eyes as much as you need to. Don't let your eyes dry out. but it's important that you focus your eyes on that black dot. You're going to stare at that for about 15 more seconds. I'm going to switch over to a pure white screen. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep staring at the middle of the white screen. Does everything look bluish green to you? That's because when you were staring at the at the red screen, your red cones were becoming super excited and sending lots of messages to your brain that you were seeing red light. When I switch over to the white screen, a white screen should cause all 3 of your cone cells to fire, but your red cones were tired, and so they took a little break. Your green cells and your blue cells, which hadn't been doing anything on the previous screen, they were not tired, they were ready to go. So they were activated by the white screen as they should have been, and they sent messages to your brain saying green, blue, green, blue, green, blue. And so that's what your brain saw. Now that you've been on the screen for a few minutes and your red cells have had a moment to rest, you're probably seeing that the greenish blue color has faded away and the screen has turned back to regular white. If you want to rewind the video and try this activity again, feel free. In the meantime, let's go ahead and move on. Now I'm going to show you another image. It's going to look very familiar to you, but the colors are all wrong. There's going to be a dot in the middle. I want you to stare at that dot for 30 seconds, just like before. Alright, here's the dot. I'm pointing at it with my pointer. Stare at that dot for about 30 seconds. Try not to move your eyes around. It's very important that you don't move your eyes around. You can blink if you need to. Please don't let your eyes dry out. Blinking is fine, but try not to move your eyes around. Stare at the dot for about 10 more seconds. Do not move your eyes around. Blink if you need to. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So hopefully you can see an image of the American flag on this white background, but with the correct colors. The blue where there should be blue, the red where there should be red, and the white where they should be white. Again, this happens because on the previous image, which I'll go back to for just a moment, the colors of the American flag are reversed from what they should be. So in this area where there should be blue, there's yellow. Remember, yellow causes your red and green cones to get excited, but not your blues. So when you're staring at this image, this part of your retina is getting the reds and greens worn out. When I switch to the white screen, the blues will be the only ones that are ready to go. Here, these stripes are exciting your blues and greens, but not your reds. So when I switch over to the white screen, the blues and the greens will be all worn out, but the reds will be active and ready to go. And then the areas where the image is black, they're not exciting any of your cone cells. So when I switch over to the white screen, all 3 of your cones in that area will be ready to show you a white screen or a white image. Let's do one more image like this. I'm going to show you an image of 2 parrots, but the colors have been reversed, just like the image in the American flag I showed you a minute ago. And then I'm going to switch to a black and white image. Now for this image, it is very, very important that you focus on that black dot. Do not try to look around the image or it won't work. Focus on the black dot, blink if you need to, don't let your eyes dry out, but focus on the black dot. Now in about 15 seconds, I'm going to switch over to the same 2 parrots, but it's going to be a pure black and white image, no colors. And you need to continue to focus on the dot in the middle. You'll be tempted to want to look around, but if you look around, the effect will not work. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep looking at the dot in the middle. Does it look like the parrots are colored? The parrot on the left looks like it has a yellow belly and a bluish green head and back. The parrot on the right has a red belly. If you don't see the colors, it may be because you're looking around the image. You have to stare at the dot for the colors to work. If it's not working for you, feel free to pause and rewind the video and stare at the previous image for 30 seconds, and then switch over and look at the black and white image. So a few minutes ago, I asked you to memorize the color of a stop sign, and I said that I was going to show you a series of images where the same stop sign's color had been manipulated, and I was going to ask you to determine which of these was the original stop sign. You think you know which one it is? Take a minute, look at these 8 images, and decide which one you think is correct. Did you pick number 4? Number 4 is the same color as the original stop sign. I have not modified that color at all. Here's the original image. If you didn't get this right, don't feel bad. It's not your fault. Human color memory is actually not very good, and the colors that we perceive can depend on the time of day, what's going on around us, our mood, lots of things. So if you've ever been in a store trying to pick out, say, a shirt, and you just know that shirt would go well with some shoes that you have at home, and then you get home and find that they don't match at all, again, that's not your fault. It's just that for humans, memorizing a color is very, very difficult. I want to show you 2 final illusions to illustrate how we perceive colors. If you've seen these before, you may already know the answer, but take a look at this image that shows a cube with several colored tiles. And I want to draw your attention in particular to these tiles here in the middle of the top and the middle of the side. I want to ask you which tile looks lighter and which one looks darker. Now, if you're like most people, probably say that the tile on the side appears to be lighter in color and the tile on the top appears to be darker in color. But now I'm going to put a black mask over everything but those 2 tiles. And as it turns out, they're actually the exact same color. They're the same shade. When I take the mask away, the illusion reappears. That's why I love this illusion. It works even if you know it's an illusion. The reason this works is because this tile is surrounded by darker colored tiles, and it's also on the side of the tile that is in a shadow. So your brain sees this tile and interprets that it must be lighter. This tile is surrounded by brighter tiles, and it's on the side of the cube that's in full light. So your brain sees it and interprets that it must be darker. But when we take away all of those clues, then it becomes obvious that both tiles are actually the same color, and so is the tile on the ground here. Similar illusion. There are 2 squares labeled A and B. I would ask you to determine which square is darker and which is lighter. Again, if you haven't seen this illusion before, if you don't know the solution, you may think that tile A is darker and tile B is lighter. I mean, it certainly looks that way to me. But if I cover everything but those 2 tiles, then as you may have guessed, they are actually the same color. Again, once I take the mask away, the illusion quickly returns. Even though I know these are the same color, A looks darker and B looks lighter. And again, it's because B is surrounded by darker tiles, so our brain gives us the impression that it's lighter, whereas A is surrounded by lighter tiles, and so it looks darker. Also, B is in the shadow of this cone, so we just interpret it as being brighter because it stands out from the shadow. But once we apply the mask and remove all of the clues, then our brain sees that they are really the same color. So folks, that is going to be the end of our last lesson, and I appreciate your time and attention. Thank you so much. Going forward, we're going to be doing some reviewing. We're going to be reviewing the units that we've already covered, and just going over that material to just refresh it in your mind. Yes, I know there's not going to be a final exam, but it's still just a good idea to review, because as you go into other science classes from here, if you do take other science classes, you may find that this material comes back up. Or if you plan to go to college and you take science classes there, you may hear some of this material again. So it's always good to just review it. As always, I appreciate your time and attention. I cannot tell you how much it means to me. For those of you who have been checking in with these lessons on a day-to-day basis, I super appreciate it. Thank you so much. I ask that you please do continue to take care of yourselves. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, to get in contact. If you need anything at all, please let me know. Keep washing your hands. It's very important. And stay safe. It's been a pleasure to work with you this semester. I wish you the very best of luck going forward. And, if you have any questions about the review, please let me know. I know I said that, but I don't know when I'll have a chance to speak to you again. So, yeah, take care of yourselves. Wash your hands. Love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.